The great game of rugby union in Australia is in a bit of a low point. To help us navigate the whys and the wheres and what's going on, we are joined today, first guest of the year, by Al Baxter.
Hello, Ian.
Welcome.
Thanks,
Al.
mate. Oh, Willie.
We have with us, as usual, William, Toulon Rugby Football Club's favourite son.
Yes.
Great.
Now, for those of you who don't remember Al, and I'm sure there's not many of those, but Al played 69 tests for the Wallabies. He played 120-odd games for the Waratahs. He's now an associate director of a big architecture firm that does a lot of sports stadiums. He's on the board or vice president of the New South Wales Rugby. He's your general overachiever. It's actually quite frustrating.
It's a great resume.
Now, Al, your career started around the time that would be considered the golden era or the end of the golden era. Mate, what's gone wrong?
Oh, obviously I'm not playing anymore, so
That's probably the main thing.
End of the show.
Just so Check won't pick me. Look, a whole lot of stuff's gone wrong, but I reckon big one has been domestic comp. So that's where, look, the games at the top, the World Rugby stuff, obviously, World Cups, the international games, Burzo Cups are still pretty strong. Grassroots is still really strong. Shoot Shield keeps going strength to strength, and then it's that sort of middle core, the NRC and the semi-professional and professional. So NRC being semi-professional and the professional being the Super Rugby has just lost its way a bit and just tried to do more than it can, and so that's fallen back, and that's your core week to week sort of eyeballs on your game stuff.
So how do you fix that? I mean, because that is your bread and butter, that sort of thing, the NRC. So how do you sort of fix that?
In all honesty, I reckon...
And the Shoot Shield or everything like that.
So Shoot Shield's going really... So I guess the way Shoot Shield is sort of the top of the community, the feeder game. So that's always going to be community clubs, and that's always going to be strong. It's really good. It's local grounds. You go down, you take the kids and have a beer on the sideline, and that's great. When it goes to the next step, I think what they honestly need to do is they need to say, you know what, the Super Rugby, it's had its day, it's fantastic, but now we actually need an Australian comp.
Is there too many teams in the Super Rugby?
Yeah,
I mean, like, I used to love Super Rugby when you were playing. Yeah. You know, just the Brumbies, the Waratahs, they were so close. We used to go neck and neck with the Kiwis. Yeah. There's that rivalry, you know. I've played for Australia for weeks. I hate New Zealand. New Zealand hates me. I used to love when you blokes used to win. And now I'm like, there's a Japanese team in there. There's an Argentinian team in there. There's more South African teams. I'm like, what's going on? Because for the average sort of supporter, you're just going, that's just too many teams. I'm done.
But too many teams who are playing in hours of the day that no one's up. So, a massive issue, I think, is Super Rugby is now it's gone to so many teams who are outside of Australia. You don't have the tribalism for 3/4 of the team in the competition. So, you know what, when the Lions, who were runners-up last year, but no one knows in Australia who the Lions from Joburg are, play the Stormers from Western Province, like, that's a massive match to South Africa, but you know what? No one in Australia cares and no one knows. And so all the content on Australian TV of rugby is of games people just don't care about.
Well, that's another issue too. I mean, rugby has this era or this aura of an elitist game.
Yeah.
And you can't get Super Rugby on free-to-air televisions, which means how are the general public going to get to understand what a great game it is? I mean, you're involved. Why is that the case?
Yeah, and that was I think a bit of a dud deal done. When was it? Would have been mid-2000s, where it was John O'Neill at the time. And look, I don't know it was him, but he was the big boss at the time. And they had the option where Fox came in and said, Fox and I think Channel 10 came in. Channel 10 said we'd love to put at least a game a week of Super Rugby on free-to-air. Look, Channel 9's got league and cricket. Channel 7's got tennis. We want rugby union. And Foxtel said, OK, if you do that, then we're going to cut like a massive chunk out of your broadcast deal. And all the states just went, you know what, we don't care if you lose a big chunk because all our sponsorship goes up, all our membership goes up, everything goes up. So let's take it. And ARU went, no.
And that would have been the smart thing to do because have a look at, I mean, league, we just signed the biggest deal in the history of our game because, you know, we bartered with Fox Sports and with Channel 9. And that would have been perfect with rugby union because, I mean, you can't just rely on this jersey all the time.
Right.
and you got to rely, you got to rely on your money
since
there.
this is only 12 games a year. So the Wallabies play 12 games a year, and 4 of those are in Europe. So what happens is 4 of those are on at 2 a.m. in the morning. So really 8 games a year you're looking to make all your money.
Yeah.
And so that's where, look, I think the success is shown by, you look at netball. So netball's just gone free to air. It started off 1 game free to air with the others on pay TV. Gangbusters, gone through the roof.
It's gone from Gem to Channel 9.
Yeah. So, and that's the model that I think was not accepting that model was, I think, the first step of that downward trend.
Well, interestingly, back in those days, there wasn't the digital channels that there are now. I mean, these networks now have got 3 or 4, legitimately 3 or 4 channels.
Yeah.
I cannot see how some rerun of MASH is going to rate better than a Super Rugby game.
So what they do is, I think One, which is one of the Channel 10 affiliates, plays the highlights package of the Super Rugby on the Sunday morning at 9 a.m. or something. But it's nothing. But that's right. Like, it is a matter of, at the moment, it's Foxtel protected content, and Foxtel obviously has paid a lot of money for it, so they don't want to release it.
And it's the same. It's the same. They've got as many shows as the NRL.
Yeah.
Or you turn on a Rugby Union on Fox, and all you get is Rugby Union. AFL's the same, and so is Rugby League. So if you want all the sports, but people need to understand. There's only like 10 or 20% of Australians have Fox Sports,
and it's dropping.
But everyone wants free. Everyone has free to air. Yeah. So that's why we nail it with Channel 9 without a couple of games a week on. Yeah. We've got 4 games a week on Channel 9, which is free to air, which is our demographic, which is blue collar, and same as Union. You can watch it for free on a Sunday or a Friday night or a Thursday.
That's right.
So I can't believe that you just wouldn't do that.
There's obviously been a change of leadership. Bill Pulver's been or stepped down or been removed or whatever might have happened behind the scenes there, and Raylene Castle, who was in charge of the Bulldogs. Now, I don't want to cast any dispersions on Raylene Castle. But she left the Bulldogs in a pretty awful mess. Who was it that appointed Raylene Castle? Is that the board?
Yeah, it was the board. But look, I actually have no problem with Raylene Castle being the CEO, because she is totally different to any other CEO that's been with rugby before. So there's never really been a professional sports administrator as part of Rugby Australia. It's always been like Bill Pulver, who came from corporate land. John O'Neill had come from banking before he went into ARU, and he was a really successful administrator and then went on to other sports. But it's always been banking, finance sector, and it had always been white bread, male, middle class, same old school tie. And you know what? The problem has been is that kind of stuff has just meant we've gone down and down, down. And I don't know with those guys, because some guys have done some really good job, but if rugby is going to reinvent itself and make some really tough and different decisions, it needs someone totally different. And having a New Zealand female who's had a netball and rugby league background as a professional sports administrator, you know what, that is something totally different than rugby's ever had. So I'm for, you know what.
So where does it start? Where do we start? I mean, because everyone keeps talking about Union is probably at its lowest right now. I can go back to 2015 when we're in a World Cup final. Yeah. And how far we've regressed in 3 years is phenomenal to me, because I thought we'd be favourites for the next World Cup, because obviously New Zealand's always going to be up there, but I was thinking, Richie McCaw, all these sort of blokes, Sonny Bill Williams, Nonu, all these guys, they've had their time. It's time for us to come up, and I can see us with Hooper and all these sort of young kids and Izzy and all these blokes really, really shining. I'm going, it must be our time that next World Cup, and I've never seen us regress so far within 3 years. So I'm not sure, how far off are we?
Yeah, well, I think it is it's that middle layer. So when we don't have the same professional production house that someone like New Zealand or South Africa does, because we just don't have the Super Rugby tournament right at the moment. We don't have enough guys who are saying, you know what, this is the tournament we're playing. We've not half, we've got about a third of professional rugby players in Australia playing in Europe, because you know what, the tournament's just as good, great money, and if I've played 60 tests, I can come back and play for Australia anyway. So it's one of those things where I reckon if we get Super Rugby fixed, and I reckon for us, there was an article in the paper by one of the rugby writers called Paul Cully, who said, what we should do is just do a 10-team Aussie tournament, and that's exactly where I think we should actually go. I think we say, let's see the end of Super Rugby, which is 2020, and you know what? Then
that's when the broadcast
deal ends, and then we go, let's do a local comp where we can build on the tribalism, where you want to play for your local team because everyone knows your local team and they know our local team is playing your local team, and so we're going to get 2 local teams fans and supporters.
But at the end of the day, as you said,
Yeah.
like, the money that is overseas is ridiculous.
Massive,
Like in the south of France and in England, you can play in Italy, you can play
Japan,
everywhere. In Japan, you can play 12 games, you get $1 million. So you can't say, and you got these players. You just train every single day. You just play your butts off. It's just the same as league players. We're all sportsmen.
Yeah.
And then you get that opportunity to go, you know what, I get to step away from, the green and gold jersey here. I get to go play in Japan, not as hard, not as physical, get all the money. So you can't really, and you want them players to come back to local league. Yeah. But they're not, it's just hard because they're not really going to, are they?
No, in that.
Yeah, I'd sort of say just that I'd agree that you're going to get the guys who aren't the top level Wallabies. So top level Wallabies always get big time contracts. It's the guys who are the next level Wallabies. Yeah, you're going to lose them. But I guess at the moment what's happening is we're not getting enough of the blokes the next level under that. The blokes who are going, you know what, if I play really well in the Super Rugby comp, I might make that Wallaby spot. You know what, I might get a European deal or whatever. We're getting guys now going, I've got to play Super Rugby. I've just played a year, but you know what, I think I might go to Europe. Whereas, you know what, if
so many options.
Yeah, and I think if you've got a really strong comp, then you get enough people who genuinely go, you know what, I want to play for Waratahs because Waratahs my state. And that's what the Waratahs are trying to do now by saying, you know what, they're celebrating having guys play for their own state and have it where, look, it's not a franchise, it's actually your club side. And you know, we're the New South Wales side and we represent you guys and trying to have that as a feeder in. And if you have, like the best matches you play against, like a state of origin, when you play the Queenslanders and you play the Brumbies, and it's like, well, let's have more of them. Where you know you get to go head to head with the blokes you're going for a Wallaby spot, because you know what, every single young Aussie player wants to be a Wallaby. So, mate, have every single weekend like a Wallaby trial, and I guarantee you'll get a much better level of rugby.
At, if that was the model, right? If there was a 10-team competition. Where you brought in, two from New South Wales or, brought it back the Western Force or the equivalent. Where does that leave the NRC? Because at the end of the day, the NRC was brought in to try and rival the NPC or the Curry Cup.
Yeah.
It hasn't really set the world on fire because people don't have any particular affiliation of the clubs that are there
tribalism.
now.
It's played on Thursday night. I would actually merge some of those sides and play them in the high level. So at the moment you've got like Queensland country, New South Wales country, I'd say just make a countryside. And that countryside is any rural origin guy.
The best of the country.
Yeah, from around Australia, put him in that. There's teams from, so you've got the Western Force side, you've got the one Melbourne side, you've got one Canberra side, you've got 3 New South Wales sides. I'd even go, right, why don't you have the Waratahs, you have a countryside, which is combined country, and then like in the European comp, they've got London Irish, which started with Irish players who are in London. Yeah. Why wouldn't you have a Sydney Tongan side or a New South or a Aussie Tongan side or something like that and say, you know what, or a Aussie Fijian side or something? Because all these guys, so
many people play union. That's the thing. It's like, as a rugby league player, like I'm all rugby league, but I understand how big union is. It's the biggest game in Australia, easily, hands down, regardless of how it's going in Australia. Worldwide, it's ridiculous. It's no one can compete. AFL, rugby league, all these other games cannot compete. And that's what, when the Wallabies and when you blokes aren't going so good, Australian sports seems to be going down. You know what I mean? Because we rely so much on the Wallabies, and if they're going really good, I'm not sure whether these young players realise how much importance it is to wear that jersey and to win. Us getting beat by Scotland last year pissed me off. Then these crazy Irish blokes are going to come out here in about a month. You think they don't want to come and dust us up on their own field, So we're under a lot of pressure, man. We can't be dusted up by these teams that aren't in the top 10.
That's right. And look, I think it's one of those things where, look, I think Czech is getting through to these guys. Look, this is the whole nation. This is a national pride thing.
Yes.
When you put the jersey on, you're doing for the whole nation.
More than yourself.
And I think, look, I don't think Czech, I think Czech really understands that, and I don't think it's missed. I think what's good about the Irish guys that are coming out is they are Six Nation champions. So you know what, we're going to test our guys against the top side in Europe. So it's good. But and in many ways, I think the what's happened at Wallabies has been symptomatic of the weakness of the Super Rugby sides. Like at the moment, we just don't have the amount of cattle coming through. Like when we have our number 1, number 10, so when Foley's injured, we just go, who the hell can we put in there? Whereas if the All Blacks have their number 1
it's a
guy
production
injured,
line.
there's 15 guys.
One of the main criticisms, I guess, that comes down from grassroots is that the top level, there's a huge disconnect between what happens at board level or at Rugby Australia level and the filter down effect. And essentially, the biggest stakeholders in the game are the grassroots.
Yeah. And
so what can rugby do to get them back on board?
Well, I think a massive part of it is making sure that they're part of the organisation. So, and this is once again one of the things the new, well, those not so new anymore, but been there 12 months or so. The new Waratah CEO has actually come from the New Zealand system. He was head of the high performance in New Zealand, which is sort of their rugby programs, and he just came and said, guys, like seriously, New South Wales, you've got a ton of rugby players, and at the moment they're playing totally disconnected to the Waratahs. If you bring them all in one and you actually give, like at the moment we've got a massive volunteer base, but there's actually not a huge amount that the upper levels are doing to try and support the volunteers to facilitate rugby. And so like that's been a massive focus of the new New South Wales CEO's gone, you know what, we've got to do everything we can. We can't throw money at them, and anyway, that's an endless pit because it's like, where'd you go with the money? Let's just actually see what programs these guys need, and then we give the volunteers programs, and then you know what, they generate more volunteer games, and then it becomes that whole grassroots building thing where if you actually help the guys at the bottom do what they love doing anyway, so you're going to get guys playing games of footy on the weekend, be it touch footy, rugby union, rugby league. Well, if we can facilitate, make it really easy for guys to turn up to a game of rugby union, play a game of rugby union, then it makes it really easy for them to go on and push guys up through the system. And that's not just senior stuff, that's junior stuff as well. So it starts
one criticism that I've got, I mean, our boys play in the same footy team, and last year when we went to Canberra for that tournament for the boys, there wasn't one Brumbies player, there was no, I mean, an opportunity like that, all they have to do is send one player. Finn started playing rugby league this year, and Henry does for school. The first week that they had that, the NRL had a full development squad down there. They had them doing drills. They had probably 15 people teaching them, making them learn, letting them understand the game. Now, the union will never grow unless it starts to put money in at that level.
And that's been that disconnect between that, and it's the simple things where it's got.
And that's where I think Raylene Castle might be able to bring something in, because she's been at the Bulldogs, she's been in New Zealand, in New Zealand sports, and it does start the grassroots. I mean, like, I think we learnt the model off AFL. We got a little bit sloppy about 10 years ago, and next minute GWS starts crawling in. You know, the Swans are getting bigger because they were going around to schools, handing them bags and giving them footballs. And and we were giving them little footballs like that you could, then one of them little rubber ones where you just throw away. That's what we're giving them.
Nothing.
And rugby was giving them nothing.
That's right.
Not giving them nothing. So at least you've got. So AFL's at least. Imagine being a young kid. Being able to kick a ball around, you know, or even and now at least we're giving them mod footies around, so they can at least pass a rugby league ball, know the difference between that and an AFL ball. But that's a really big thing to do when you're young, and to get a free football. Massive. Like, you remember when you're young and you get a union ball or an AFL ball, you're still going to kick the shit out of it. You know what I mean? You're going to kick it all the way home and say, look what I got. You wouldn't even know what it was if you're 8 years old. But next minute you're kicking an AFL ball, and that's the whole secret of it, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And it's even better if you got that ball brand with a team name.
That's what I mean.
Like, the kids go, there's a Swans thing on that.
And AFL's brand is everywhere. AFL. And so does the NRL's learned it. And this is what it should be. Gilbert should be all over the balls like that, usually given out to schools. And then that's the way to start through the whole grassroots.
The issue though is that there's no money.
Well,
there is money,
but this is the massive issue at the moment, because the crowds are down and memberships are down, things like that, and the broadcast deal. So it doesn't. The last broadcast deal was like a fifth of the amount of the rugby league and AFL ones, but it's being smart. So it's things like, if you connect the grassroots with the top levels better, then it's things like identifying, we've got a massive Canberra tournament of rugby on the weekend. Let's send a couple of players there and development officers. And look, they might have been there, we didn't see them, but we certainly didn't see any players. And, you know, if there had been a couple of players there, they would have been mobbed. So it's that kind of working smart and saying, let's focus on the rugby heartland, where we know if we can get a couple of those teams successful, they'll draw in more people, and we'll build on that. You know, they'll become members, and then they're...
All they have to do is take the blueprint off AFL and NRL and start at the bottom again, because it's such a big brand, rugby union. Like, you're just sort of struggling now. just start again at the bottom, and then just grow it up.
If
grow
you
it up.
talk to the average club, whether it be Shoot Shield or Subbies Club, and you said, we're going to give you 50 grand, right? That would revolutionise that club. They'd buy more training gear. They'd buy scrum machines, things.
Yeah.
These players are getting paid such an enormous amount. Why not reduce their salaries?
No, well, because this
That's
is once
never
again the
gonna happen.
balance. No, well, the balance is because you just
It's
heard before,
not.
No, because you just heard us before talking about the massive market pressures from Europe. So, like literally, Izzy could go to Europe tomorrow and be on 2 million Aussie, like draw the hat. So he's on much less in Australia than he would in Europe, and it's the ARU, or the Rugby Australia, balancing. Okay, we've got to keep the bums on seats kind of player, and he's the kind of player where people turn up because he brings bums on seats. With okay, we also need to win games. With we don't have that much money. How can we make that balance? So it's a really fine balance between keeping the best players so the game is successful and popular. Wallabies win. You've got good players doing good stuff. With
Mostly front rowers.
It should all be front rows. It should be all the front rows. It should be all the top money.
It should be all the marquee
That's
players front rows, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. The
kidding.
good-looking
Don't
ones.
worry about this bloke. God, easy.
Intelligent, mate. Awesome. But it's then okay. What can we do about actually getting funds down? And look, many of the ways, like literally and I can only speak for what happened in New South Wales in the past 12 months, but they literally went to the club and said, okay, we can give X couple of dollars. It's not 50,000. It's like we'll give you a couple $100 to gear, or would you prefer us to give you a whole training manual to coach your coaches, or bring development officers to coach your coaches, or give systems, things like that? And hands down, all of them said, can we just, we want your support. Because you know what, X $100, that's be fine, but we're going to get a couple of pads which you don't know how to use anyway, or get a couple of footballs. We've got plenty of footies. We actually want people to teach us how to coach your kids better. We want people to teach us how to, things like registering the players. It's a pain in the arse to sit down there. And so it's that kind of stuff where we go, right, we don't have the cash, so let's facilitate that kind of stuff, and hopefully that makes it easier for people to play rugby. And then when there is a desperate need for funds, let's look at that case by case and go in there and try and help them out where they can, because there's just not the cash. And look, once again, at the Waratahs this year, the professional game took a hit where they said, we're not going to pay to the cap, we're going to pay under because it's just can't afford it.
Are the crowds down?
Oh, way down. So
is it just say like league? Our crowds are down big time, but our viewership's up. So that's what I think rugby league cares about. They don't give a shit who turns up to the game. They'll charge
that's where
you.
their money is.
I know. But this is what I'm saying. But I'm saying does rugby union pay too much to get into a game like rugby league? Is it expensive? Is it too expensive for your average family?
Because all junior players, all junior rugby players get them for free. So and that's
so they're trying to get people into the games as cheap as possible, but just not putting bums on seats.
Look, there's a whole number of things
can't win.
And I think
I know that, but if they get, young kids when we were young, we used to get that card, go straight in the free. I used to go in the Knights games all the time for free. That was a big thing.
And that's what every junior rugby player gets.
Tackle Joey Johns, nail him.
Easy.
Tackle the Chief actually off the back fence.